Let us look at this issue of after negotiating with bandits, they will now turn around, come back to start maiming, killing people. Because personally, I've maintained consistently that bandits are not those you should negotiate with. Reason being that that negotiation is not sustainable. The best thing is for federal government to acquire monopoly or currency power, smoke them out of their hiding places, set them running, and bring them to justice. There's no truth about it. We are equally just opposing this with the position of Gumi, who have consistently maintained that federal government should not use kinetic approach in addressing insecurity, particularly the bandits, Fulani militias. He equally made it very clear that bandits, when federal government bomb bandits through efforts, the federal government is killing bandit family members. I don't know where he derived that from anyway. Even the recent claim of his that we have Mossad agents in Nigeria and that they will be targeting Muslim leaders. I want to say that federal government should ignore the likes of Gumi. Federal government should move ahead to use the federal might against the bandits. That is my own position. Because this is very clear. The Constitution puts the responsibility of protection of lives and property in the office of the president, the governors, and the local government chairman. Hence, Section 14, subsection 2B of 1999 Constitution, as amended, is very clear that the welfare of the people and their security shall be the primary purpose of governance. So, if that is the position of the law, you got to show that the governors, the president, the local government chairman have a role to play, have a duty to play to make sure that Nigerians are protected. The way it is, I want to say that this particular issue where a bandit leader, after entering into a deal with Zamfara State government, came back to adopt 40 persons from a mosque, that best explains the reason I had always maintained my position that bandits are not those you should negotiate with. Let me quickly give you an insight of what is coming from Vanguard in that regard. It says bandits adopt 40 in Zamfara mosque as peace deal collapses. Go for that to say that Abuja bandits in the early hours of yesterday attacked a mosque at Gidan Tobe village in Safi local government area of Zamfara State, adopting no fewer than 40 worshippers. You go for that to say that the attack came barely hours after a similar one at Godai village in Bukuyun local government area of the state, kidnapping over 10 persons. It's not new, kidnapping is not new, though it's bad, it's wrong. But what the essence of bringing this narrative is to portray the point that bandits do not repent. The federal government should ignore the likes of Gumi and go ahead to use federal might against them. That's why particularly I'm encouraging Nigerians, particularly the patriotic ones, to queue behind federal government in their quest to deal with bandits. But as far as I'm concerned, these are people who have no value for human life. We can clearly see the activity of Toji Bello, the activity of Ada Aleru, who have decided that they will not have peace, because I was saying it because the wicked must not have peace. And peace must elude the lives of Gumi, the lives of Ada Aleru. I want to say that the same way those Ansari terrorist leaders were arrested and are currently facing prosecution, the same way the lives of Toji Bello, the lives of Ada Aleru, and of course any bandit leader or any bandit at all must be arrested and brought before the court to face prosecution. For me, the only circumstance that is justifiable to negotiate with bandits is when Nigerians are in captivity, and going for their rescue is going to endanger their lives. Like when we had the issue of Chibok gas, the issue of Dapchi gas, it's understandable that under that circumstance, going for rescue will endanger their life. So one can negotiate and even part with money to ensure that they are released and reunited with their loved ones. But not a situation where nobody is in captivity, you want to negotiate with them. But the question is, that negotiation, that peace, how long will it last? Just as we have seen this one that have broken down. Because if you negotiate and enter into a deal with them, the question is, they feel dissatisfied and decide to come back and start kidnapping. What do you do next? That's why the best option still remains option of power, option of force, option of federal might against them. Because I cannot imagine the government of United States of America, the government of United Kingdom, the government of Russia, Israel, France, name it, stooping so low to start negotiating with bandits. Because as far as I'm concerned, these bandits are not more formidable than Nigerian armed forces. I can clearly say this because I'm aware that as Nigeria as an entity, that will have comparative advantage over the bandits. Yes, comparative advantage because we have air platforms. As a country, we can easily go and negotiate and buy arms from any country, no matter how sophisticated, if it is in the category that the country is willing to settle another country. Of course, we have so many allies out there. But the bandits, they are limited to what they can acquire. So why is it now becoming difficult for us to deal with them? And again, we can equally leverage on technology to do this. Because as far as I'm concerned, the technology is the way to go. So federal government should not entertain any distraction like the one that comes from Gumi. Because this is a character that was once deported from another country back to the country. And the question is, why is it not even difficult for federal government to ask him questions? Because as far as I'm concerned, life is sacrosanct. Anything that borders on safety of life and property is very paramount. That's why those who crafted this constitution of Nigeria was very careful to address the issue of welfare of the people and their security. Because as far as I'm concerned, from the constitution point of view, that is the key area of governance. That is the very essence of governance. And again, until we address this to the point where farmers can go to farm freely, it is going to be very difficult for us to be able to start having products from the agricultural sector and start exporting. We understand that even areas where we naturally have arable lands, where naturally feed the nation, are finding it difficult to cultivate crops, whether for consumption, whether for export, whether cash crop is a problem as we speak. Well, I personally had encounter with someone from Benue. We all know what Benue stands for. Of course, basket food of the nation. This man basically told me that he buy food stuff from Lagos, talking about gari, yam, rice, and send back to Benue. What does that say? It tells you that they are mopping up food in the urban areas to feed those in the rural area. And this is not far-fetched because of insecurity. How can you imagine that somebody who hails from Benue State is buying foodstuff from Lagos and sending it to village? So it means we are all sitting on a keg of gunpowder. It means it's a disaster in wasting. That's why personally I'm very happy with the current approach of federal government. I think the insinuation that came from the Director General of DSS is timely, when he encouraged that communities should be empowered to be the first line of defense in case of invasion. I think that may have shaped the mind of the president, talking about Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu, who have recently come out to say, yes, I'm going to allow state police. And secondly, that he is going to strengthen forest guard. That's why I personally encourage the state governments to jump at this, particularly those states where the activities of bandits is predominant. But when you talk about banditry, particularly the one occasioned by Fulani militias, you are dealing with a very formidable force. Do not forget that in the time of summer autumn as governor of Benue State, we had an instance where a group attacked him, attempted to assassinate him. And shortly afterward, they came out to say, yes, that the Fulani nationality movement, that they did it. And they even went out to threaten that the governor was lucky, that next time he will not be that lucky. So if they can have the dexterity, the effrontery, to attack a sitting governor with the retinue of aides, in terms of security aides that goes with him, you need to show that no one is safe. And again, these are the same people that the Global Terrorism Index is very clear. He said the Fulani military of Nigerian extraction is the fourth most dangerous terrorist organization in the world. So the government should know that they are dealing with a very formidable force that determines the mass of federal government. I understand that sometime in 2010, Ghana government did a very wonderful work where they rose and decided that enough is enough. I think in Central African Republic in 2016, they equally rose and said enough is enough. I think the approach of federal government currently is tending towards that angle of enough is enough. Nigerians must be protected. Nigerians must hear a sigh of relief, because it's quite disturbing. Say recently how in Zamfara State about 50-something persons were abducted. It turned out that ransom of 1 million was demanded for each person, and at the end of the day, it turned out that those that could not raise the ransom were disallowed one after the other. I must say it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable because why should people make themselves lord over some other people? And we cannot have a situation where these people even give orders, compel people not to go to farm, make demands what conditions should be met before farming activities could take place in some part of the country. I must say it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable, and the government should synergize with the locals to ensure that this forest guard becomes a reality. I'm particularly happy with the Enugu State government that have shown the leeway. Of course, understand that as at the last count, they have succeeded in engaging some personnel who will now be mobilized to go into the forest bushes in form of forest guard. I want to encourage states like Zamfara, Benue, Plateau, Taraba, Kaduna, because of Southern Kaduna, to quickly jump at this with speed of light. Because personally, I'm a strong advocate of the governors should parade some level of security power. Not just going by the name of the governors and the chief security officer that has represented the state, but they should parade some level of security power. Because I understand that in the past, Jonathan Jang as a governor of Plateau State was very clear that as a governor that he would not command the fly. And I think the reason is very clear, because he could see that as a governor, he would not command the security architecture within his state. We had a similar issue in Rivers State, where Wike, as a governor of Rivers State, when he was addressed as the chief security officer of the state, he jokingly said that he is not the chief security officer of the state, rather the chief logistic officer of the state. Don't get it twisted. He was not under any illusion as to his responsibility of protecting lives and property of the people as the governor, because he is himself a lawyer. But he was saying it particularly because he know that as a governor, going by the constitution in principle, in practice, I mean to say that he do not command the security architecture under the state. Because to start with, the commissioner of police in a state is not answerable to the governor. The director of DSS in a state is not answerable to the governor. The head of other security agencies in the state is not answerable to the governor. We have a command and control system, a chain that comes from Abuja that trickles down. We understand that the Office of the National Security Advisor coordinates all issue of security, who in turn report to the president. I'm not saying we should jettison that, but even as that is in place, let us have other arrangements, other security arrangements from at the state level, at the local government levels, to make sure that they deal with issues that have to do with banditry, particularly moving into the bushes, into the forest, where the regular police, regular military personnel cannot get to. Hence, all crime is local. I think they can even better address it, because come to think of it, the man who is coming from Sokoto to Delta, the man who is going from Delta to Kano, the man who is going from Enugu to Abuja, the man who is coming from Medugri to Lagos, the man who is coming from Ogun to Mena, as a police personnel, as a military personnel, as a DSS personnel, there's a little to which the person will know in terms of local information. That's why they say all crime is local. The locals have the actionable intelligence that are required to nip crime in the bud, because, of course, they know everybody in their environment. If a stranger walks into the environment, they know. And again, their traditional rulers, who obviously have more authority over the people, should have a pivotal role to play, because it will be seamless in terms of intelligence dissemination if you have the traditional rulers strategically positioned in the security chain. And once that happens, giving the intelligence to the security personnel becomes easier. I want to say that when the maritime military base was compromised and bombed, if intelligence were gathered by the locals, it would have been possible that they would have been able to share such intelligence with the military personnel who could have nipped the crime in the bud. It's possible that as at the time the bandits, the militants, Boko Haram, terrorists were moving before they got to the point where they compromised that military base. Some locals would have even seen their movements. So if that synergy were there, or that was there, they could have released such intelligence to the authorities, and perhaps they would have confronted them before they got to the point where they had access to the military base. But meanwhile, at this point, I must say very thank you for attending this segment and some